I'd like to kind of hear from you guys a little bit more of is how you think our platforms can continue to be used for these types of, positive ways to empower people and empower your peers to encourage them to report this type of behavior. What will compel you as a user to tell someone about it and do something about it?
Recently, back then, I had just reported a tweet, and then I found it interesting because usually you just report and you never hear again, and you just hope something was done about it. Yeah. But I received a notification from Twitter saying, we received your report and this is what happened, blah, blah, blah. And I feel like more sites should do that, just communication in general, and you feel like something has actually happened, not just I hit a button and they're never going to see it.
When you report, it should be like very clear what is happening, like if they're going to know, because I know some services, if you report someone, it automatically like blocks the person. Immediately they'll like know about it, and there'll be tension between like their friendship or something. If it has to do with like suicidal thoughts, it should be like this person is being taken care of, like they're in good hands, like they're going to be okay.
Mm-hmm. Follow on what you said, submitting reports. Do you have a sense of what makes a good report when you are flagging something for an online platform?
So I think what makes a good report is I've seen on a lot of sites they'll have like the report button, and then once you click that, there are a bunch of options for what category you want your report to go under. So I think that these types of things are really good because instead of just hitting report and like no one knows what you're reporting or why you're reporting it, that can be kind of like not so good because then you don't really know if they're gonna like really take it seriously or what they should be looking for. For example, some of the categories are, like Jacob said, like suicidal thoughts, inappropriate pictures or behaviors, and then there are other things like bullying, and just a bunch of different categories that you can click on. So I think really having those options, and then also like the comment section, I think like in that report, so you can like add any other thoughts that you have about why you're reporting it. I think that is really good because then you can communicate to the company exactly what you're reporting and why you're reporting it, just to really make sure that they understand fully.
So I think for report functions, there should be, I've never seen this on any social media report feature ever, but I think there should be like a comments box underneath it so you can add something about it. I do think having like the different options of what it is very nice, but there should be a comments box where you can add things, and maybe you can add pictures even, because I know a lot of times people will say things on social media that's like something that's like really bad, but then they'll like delete the post immediately, and you might have a screenshot of it, but there's no way for you to really like report the post now that it's deleted. So if you could just bring up like a report from their profile and add the screenshot to the report and add some comments on what was going on, that would be helpful.
And I feel like also with reports, it's not just for you, it's for other people. And a lot of time online, it's a lot of hate and targeting people. Like, you should not have to tolerate bullying or homophobia. As a minority, I should not have to sit here and feel like a racial slur is okay on my timeline. That's something that targets my safety, and I feel like that should be removed. And so I'm not just helping myself, but a large demographic as well.
For me personally, at my school, it's not considered cool to report someone or like be that tattletale. So maybe by putting some positive reinforcement, like, hey, it's okay to report racial slurs you see on your timeline, or this inappropriate picture that was sent to you. Like, if you put some positive reinforcement to back it up, I think that would really make a difference as well.
A really key feature of reports is the terminology that's used. Then it's easier for people to report things, because I've had a couple situations where I've wanted to report something and then I've got into all of the whole report function, and I've been sort of clicking through these categories going back, okay, I'm not seeing exactly what I'm trying to report here. Okay, well, I don't want to report it under something else in case the consequences are, greater or less than what I hope them to be. So just make sure there's enough options and the terminology is understandable, and I maybe relate that to language that the user might understand. Just having those categories available with language that you see used more by your audience.
Going along with William said, terminology is super important, especially not just for like us as teenagers and kids, but also as you guys as the adults, as we talked about parents like not knowing what DMs were or private messages were. So maybe like defining, hey, this is this feature that does this and that. So like defining it and like really explaining how it works, and then if it comes to this, here's what you should do.
Recently, a picture that included my husband and our 11-year-old son was posted, and it was a picture taken during the recent New York City LGBTQ Pride celebration. A user that just left a comment, "There should be a second Holocaust." And fortunately, we have a lot of wonderfully active friends, and they reported it multiple times, and we received the feedback that it actually didn't violate their terms of service and nothing was done. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on what we as users can do to help further shape the self-monitoring and self-policing that social media companies are doing.
When you see something like that on a post, your immediate reaction is to go after that person and be like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Blah 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 blah. Call them out for like their profile picture, for their bio. But I think that maybe instead of stooping low and like going to a level and calling them mean names and cursing them out, report them and like educate them on like why it's wrong. So like maybe rattle us like a sentence saying that's wrong. You shouldn't do that. Don't curse them out. Don't be that person that they are. So like if someone wrote that hateful comment and then you replied back, that's not right, you shouldn't do that. Other people can like your comment and comment underneath yours and say, that's right, you shouldn't, that's right, I'm backing you up and stuff like that. One thing that I think we can do like as a whole is to start small and start like in our communities, at elementary schools, start telling kids right now that this is wrong and you shouldn't be doing that. And then as they grow up and when they do on these platforms, they know that you shouldn't be doing this and that's wrong when you see it. There's also the problem of like adults who are already in that mindset or teenagers who are already in that mindset who will write those harmful comments. So I think just together standing strong and like standing up for your 11-year-old son and or like liking comments that push back against those hateful things, I think that can go a long way as well.
I think that shows a really big discrepancy between their policy on comments and what makes people feel uncomfortable or unsafe, because sexuality is a protected class, but I'm sure that they have a very formulaic way of looking at it, and they're like, oh, maybe this was not an explicit threat, and it could then call into question this protected class. But really, if it makes a lot of people feel uncomfortable, it should be removed. It should violate something, because they're taking this non-human approach to a very human task. They have a community that they have to uphold, and just because it doesn't violate their terms and conditions, I'm sure that they're concerned about internet censorship, but still, it should be a primary concern to the emotional well-being of their users.
I love hearing all of this about reporting and the necessary nature of reporting complaints, abusive conduct, content to companies. But we call it report abuse, and there are report abuse mechanisms. And what is it about? It's about reporting abuse of our platforms. Well, I used the report abuse nomenclature about 3 times during this discussion, and literally the eyes are glazing over, they're not really hearing me, and I'm like, what's wrong, I'm not connecting with them. Until, and I'm going to call her out, it was Christina that just blurted out, oh, your report matters, and it resonated somehow with her. And it's not about abuse, because they'd say to me, Miss Jacqueline, but when we have this drama and the teasing and the bullying, it doesn't rise to the level of abuse. Because they're looking at it from their perspective, which they should be. We're looking at it as abuse of our platforms. Well, now at Microsoft, we're trying to call it just report. Report a concern, report an instance that might make you feel uncomfortable, but just take the action, report. That was one of those aha moments on campus, and just to hear so many of them talk about it today, it resonated with them too, and I'm so happy for that. I will say when they created their written manifestos as a result, 7 out of the 15 manifestos, one of the points was about reporting. So that struck a chord clearly, and I'm very happy for that.